Hello, computer scientists, and welcome to the midterm. If you click on the link to the midterm programming quiz, it should bring you right in here to where your code goes. The main.java file is basically just a runner to test your code. So in main.java, it creates a midterm object and then calls test question 1, test question 2, test question 3, and test question 4. There are only 4 questions. You can change the input to any one of these to test out your answers, and I would highly recommend doing so because there's lots of things to test. But you do not write your code in here. All you do is change the inputs. Your code goes in the midterm.java file. So if you click run, you'll see that question 1, the input was hello, how are you? And then it says not answered because for question 1, I returned not answered. Same for question 2, question 3 returns false, and question 4 returns -1. So those are just kind of default things that you're going to change. So for question 1, you are going to receive this input from the main program, and you have to remove all the spaces from whatever the input is. So I'm going to test it with lots of different inputs, with lots of different spaces, and you need to return that string with no spaces in it. So instead of not answered, you will return a string, which is the result of removing the spaces from the input. Question 2, again, you're going to get a string as input, but this time you're going to reverse it. So the first letter in the input becomes the last letter in the output, and so on and so on. So if you send in, hi, how are you? Oops, I should say hello. Then the reversed string would be uoi era wo ole, and that is what you would return instead of not answered. But again, don't just return this because I'm going to test it with lots of different strings, and it needs to be accurate. Question 3 should return true or false, depending on whether the input is a palindrome. A palindrome is a word or phrase that is the same forwards and backwards. You should ignore spaces and capitalization. So here are some examples. If the input is hi, how are you? That is obviously not the same forwards and backwards, so you would return false. If the input comes in as Bob, you would return true, because even though the first B is capital and the second one is not, remember, we are ignoring the case of the letters, so Bob is the same forwards and backwards. If the input comes in as Taco Cat, you would return true, because even though there's a space and a capital T, we are ignoring spaces and capitalization. So Taco Cat, all lowercase with no spaces, would be the same forwards and backwards. And the last example, I love computer science, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, whatever that is. Even though it has lots of different capital letters, even though it has spaces on one side and not on the other, it is the same forwards and backwards. And I'm actually going to make that even more clear. So there's a hint here. Your life will be a lot easier if you use one or more of your previous answers. All right, and the last question is our good friend Fibonacci. So Fibonacci starts at 0, and you need to return the nth number of the Fibonacci sequence. So if input is 0, you would return 0, because 0 is the 0th Fibonacci number. 1 is the first Fibonacci number. If input is 3, you would return the number 2 because 0, 1, 2, 3. The third Fibonacci number is 2. If input equals 10, you would return the number 55 because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 10th Fibonacci number is 55. If INPT is 46, you return this giant number because that is the 46th Fibonacci number. But I will not ask you anything higher than 46 because that gets into a range that is greater than integer max value. If you want an optional challenge, feel free to do higher numbers. Challenge. Figure out a way to go higher. So that's an interesting challenge for those, but it is optional. And that is the midterm. It is due, as usual, next Tuesday at midnight.